share my own 2 cents, which I'm sure is inferior to what you're going to hear from Georgia, but it is something that I've thought about. These are components or elements that I think we definitely have to pay attention to if we're ever going to have universal health care in this country. It starts off, you'll notice, you can't see it very well, but uh, there in the upper left hand corner, there's a slide that says, "Our nation cannot afford to have red state health care and blue state health care. Americans deserve quality health care in every state." And the idea there is this notion that what we see now is that the Democrats are trying to say their health care plan is the best, the Republicans are trying to say their health care plan is the best, and they're both lying to us in terms of helping all Americans. Now, in terms of helping some, I mean, you want to get into an argument about which one is more mean, we can have that argument. But in terms of overall helping people, neither one of those plans accomplishes what we're looking for. So the strategies that I think we need to pay attention to is educating those with coverage about the tenuous nature of that coverage. You might have coverage under Obamacare or whatever right now. It doesn't mean you're going to have it next year. Number two, educating legislators and voters about the ways that the current policy is inhumane to over 84,000 Americans who are going to die this year, and millions of Americans who are going to have financial difficulties, at least 600,000 of whom will file bankruptcy precisely because of medical bills. And we got to garner support for, it says SB 810, that was the name of the legislation last year. It's actually probably going to have a different name and number this coming year when it's reintroduced in the California legislature. Whatever that bill is, we need to get support for it by educating our legislators and citizens about the major financial savings to the state and the folly of thinking that the federal bill can be somehow fixed to meet our needs. That's basically my thoughts on it. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Georgia to share with us what her thoughts are, which are more systematic in terms of the organizations she's working with and what they're thinking we need to be about doing. And she's going to do her own ask from you regarding that work.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reginald. I learned a lot. This is terrific.
Well, we're learning.
Yes.
And I thank all of you for coming here today in this hot Sunday afternoon. Appreciate it so much. So let me just explain again about who is the Campaign for a Healthy California. It's a coalition of organizations like Labor United for Universal Health Care. There's union organizations like the California Nurses Association and National Nurses United. And there's also professional healthcare organizations like the Physicians for a National Health Plan and the California Health Professional Student Association. There are single issue advocacy groups that have been fighting for healthcare reform for more than a decade, like Healthcare for All and Single Payer Now, and just a lot of different types of organizations. So as you can imagine, some of like the League of Women Voters is another one of our organizations. So you can imagine all these organizations have been fighting for this in their own way. So Healthcare for All, for example, they go and table at farmers markets and they try to get the word out about it. The League of Women Voters, they are working on the legislative end of it, and they're analyzing legislation, and they're working with legislators and trying to influence them. And the unions, they're working through the unions. And so if you can just imagine, every single constituency that is being reached has experienced the healthcare system in a different way. And part of the complexity of affecting social change, and you folks all know this in Occupy so very well, is that everybody experiences what I call the clampdown in their own way. If you're a white-collar worker and you've got health insurance through your employer, which is sort of like the top level of a person, you're going to experience higher deductibles and higher copay, and you're going to have to share in the cost of your premium more and more. And the burden of insuring your family, if you have a family, it's just increasing. one way of experiencing it. But let's say that you're a homeless person, okay? Or and you're thrown into the community clinic, or possibly you have Medicare, Medi-Cal. You know, even if you're at the very what you would consider the very bottom level of accessibility to affordable and consistent and well organized health care, you're also screwed in this particular system the way that we have it, because they starve those public institutions that are providing care for people while they support our wars abroad, and they support capitalist patriarchal hierarchy that, you know, basically funnels money to a very select group and leave the rest of us behind. And so if you're so anyway, let me just, so that kind of tells you who we are as far as different organizations. Now, what is our history with Occupy? It may not be very well known to you folks, but we have had an experience working with Occupy on more than one occasion. We initially reached out to Wellness when the Occupy was in place at City Hall. And so with Wellness, we taught it at Freedom School, like last year. Lisa Patrick Mudd with Labor United for Universal Health Care, she taught. And so we also collaborated with Wellness Ola on the New Orleans Funeral March on Lobby Day last January the 9th. It was a kind of a joint action with Wellness Ola. We had occupiers on our march, students from the California Health Professional Student Alliance, maybe about 300 or 400 people. And we also collaborated on M1 General Strike. East Wind had a stop on healthcare justice at Mariachi Plaza. Labor United donated the use of their giant puppets, and we had a giant puppet battle. And we reached out to the community clinics in Boyle Heights, and we asked them to come and join us so that they could get to know who we are, because the immigrant community is a community that is left out more than anybody under the Affordable Care Act, and yet they have the least amount of information about what the options are for the future to rectify this great injustice. So by means of these highly visible collaborations, we have been attempting to get the word out. And why do we look at Occupy and see such great potential? Well, there are many points of intersection with Occupy and healthcare justice. And I just went on the website for OLA and I looked at your declaration of occupation, and literally all of these points, they don't mention healthcare in every one of these points, but in every point you can tie our unjust and unaffordable healthcare system as exacerbating these problems. And here's just a couple of examples. They have continually sought to strip employees of the right to negotiate for better pay and safer working conditions. Okay, how does this tie into healthcare and justice? It ties in because every time you see somebody going on strike, some new strike out there, it often involves their healthcare benefits. And the fact that the employers are pushing onto the employees and the union members more responsibility for paying for it. Okay, this is all tied in together. In other words, it's interwoven. And you know, personally, I'm an eco-feminist, so I look at all of this stuff as very interwoven. That healthcare is one that really is easy to trace how it's all tied together. They've consistently outsourced labor and used that outsourcing as leverage to cut workers' health care and pay. And they are moving their work to countries or nations where they either have a universal health care type system like Taiwan, or they're moving them to where the people are completely robbed. They don't have any real health care at all. But the main thing is that they're depriving us of a livelihood so that they can avoid their responsibilities in this regard. Okay? They spend millions of dollars on legal teams that look for ways to get them, the corporates, out of contracts with regards to health insurance. And that's true, but not just in the private sector. When we take a look at the healthcare need of our municipalities, our counties, and our state, the community college district, you name it, any city employee is facing issues and problems around their health benefits, and the cities and the taxpayers and the tax base, it's all like exploding as the costs go up and up and up, and the injustice of it, while the CEOs of these big insurance companies, they're the ones raking in the big bucks on this. They're shareholders. Plenty of people are getting their share of this, but that impact on our public service sector, and we're robbing from this fund to pay the health insurance of the workers. It is a crisis that is snowballing and getting worse, worse, worse. And the cost is not just money. And that's the thing that people forget as you find yourself in a weaker and weaker position. Then the true cost of the dying, the suffering, then it becomes very, very clear. So that is why we look at Occupy, and we truly see that in the perspective of Occupy, there is so many lessons, there are so many ways of looking at this multifaceted problem. And so we embrace Occupy, we embrace what you stand for, and we work gladly with Occupy. And so I realize that not all of our partners, and I have to be very upfront about this, not all of our partner organizations may have this broad-based perspective. One of the things I've learned in my job of working with union folks, working with non-union, single-payer, sort of San Fernando Valley, middle-class folks that really do care, and they're progressives, they're social progressives, but they're better off. They don't always understand the communication modalities that Occupy embraces, because you folks are very, very creative. And I know you're not homogenous at all. I realize that. And I've worked with Occupy San Fernando Valley, and I've been down here at different events, and so I understand that. But a lot of people don't. They just hear Occupy, and it's like some people just think black, and they just think they're all the same. And they just think Occupy, and they just think they're all the same. So I'm sensitive to the fact that not all of our partners necessarily agree with every little thing that you guys are doing. And believe me, I don't agree with every little thing some of our partners are doing. But we all, no matter our differences, it is critical, it is key that we come together on this. And I think that the upcoming election, no matter where you fall on it, this is a time where it's almost like it's the volcano is about to burst, because I think honestly that with Occupy and all the renaissance of progressivism that we have seen in the last couple of years in our country, as people get impatient over the wars, impatient over starving the services, starving our public wealth, taking it away and selling it to private industry and all of that. As we've seen this renaissance of progressivism, I think the other side, the side that I call them the dark side, and the side that really doesn't value anybody else, that really doesn't value the Commonwealth, those people are feeling backed into the corner, and they're striking back. And they've done this historically. You go back to the 1920s, you go back to the 1950s, you go back, and every time they strike back hard, and they're mean. And this last strike back, which I count from when Reagan got into office, it was particularly well orchestrated and planned, and they managed to get themselves ingrained into the middle American value system. And sadly, that value system has sort of allowed this complacency that has overcome us. So what is the one issue, though, that everybody faces? Every single person. we get sick, or someone that we love gets sick. That is the fate of humans. We are going to get sick and we're going to die. Now the question is, how will that be? What will be the nature of that living, that illness, and that dying? What will be the experience, and where is the justice in it? I mean, in the face of the horribleness of it, that we are all going to die, where is the good in it? And the good in it is how we treat each other. I mean, this is a cost issue, yes, but it's a moral issue as well. And so what we're trying to do in the campaign is working within the various perspectives of the folks that we are coalescing around this movement. We're trying to find attachment points where it makes sense. So we have a variety of initiatives that we're working on right now. We have a community clinic outreach, and we're using the folks with the California Health Professional Student Association and the Physicians for a National Health Program. Because who will listen to doctors, other doctors? You know, that I can't go tell a doctor something. I'm not a healthcare professional, but another doctor can tell a doctor something in the language that the doctor understands.
I need to go get
And
a
believe
drink.
me,
I'm
we
gonna
have
go
a lot
downstairs.
of work
Yes.
that needs to be done with the healthcare professionals. But the Physicians for a National Health Program is working every day to bring more and more doctors on board behind this. We have another initiative where we're reaching out into the schools. We've just started this initiative, and right now the draft name of it is Medicare for Mommy, Daddy, and Me. And the whole idea behind it is to try and or sort of initiate a conversation with our educators, especially here in Southern California, who can talk about the issues as they relate to families and family life.
Yes.
We all know our grandparents had Medicare, but why don't our moms and dads have Medicare? And we know we've got coverage and programs for children in California where children have insurance. But what happens when those children grow up, you know? And what happens in those in-between times? The same issue when you have your health insurance tied to employment, you know? So it's a very complicated situation, but we realize, or at least it is the attitude of the campaign, that one of the things we have to work on is the middle, the Rotary clubs. We can't just reach out to Occupy as much as our hearts are with you guys. We also have to be able to put on our suit and go to the Rotary Club. And there's another initiative reaching out to small business, where there's some small business like a auto dealership association. We have got somebody that's a president of that, who is a single payer supporter, universal health care supporter. So we're trying to work with him and start creating a presentation that will resonate with these kind of folks in small business. We are, those are basically the main things that we're working on right now. But, oh, sorry. Oh, were you just?
I wanted to see if I could ask a question.
Yes.
What states currently have Medicare for all? Are there any states in our country? No.
No, there are initiatives in different states to try and get it. I mean, Massachusetts has a universal health care plan. It's not really Medicare for all because it still brings the for-profit insurance companies into the mix.
Yes.
And so while it has resolved some of the problems along the lines of ACA, the Affordable Care Act, it does not really solve all of the problems. We in California have unique problems in that our population, we have a huge creative community in our population, and these creative folks, they don't have those white-collar jobs. They're not working at Wells Fargo or something where they've got a nice Cadillac health plan. And oftentimes they're not even part of a union, although there are certainly unions of entertainment industry folks. But we all know people there trying to get their SAG card and they can't get it or whatever. You know, it's just a very tough go for creative types. We have a large immigrant community. I mean, we have some unique issues. We're a state that has Oh, not only is it in the entertainment community that we have these creative entrepreneurs, it's also in the Silicon Valley. All these folks developing high tech stuff. These folks are often just, hanging fire, no health insurance and no real way to get it or not affordable,
Yeah.
while they're developing this. So we have some unique things. Now, Colorado, I think, is talking about trying to do something, Montana, Oregon, but they're at various stages of getting it done. Vermont.
How's it looking in New York? Great.
I haven't heard any programs going on in New York State at all.
Having not been here last week, maybe raising things that you've covered before. Number one, I heard that there is a redeeming quality to the Obamacare, and that is that it restricts the amount of profit that can be taken by the insurance companies so severely that they're going to find staying in the healthcare business unprofitable. Have you heard about that?
I'd like to comment on that one. The medical loss ratio, the MLR, is what that's called. It's supposed to restrict the money intake of insurance companies to 20% of what they take in for themselves and their expenses and so on. And 80% is supposed to go to the customer, to the sick person. 85%.
I heard it was 85%.
Yeah, 85%. Now, what's happened is, as in so many other components of Obamacare, what you see is not necessarily what you get. And by that I mean that at this point in time, at least 19 states have taken advantage of the waiver request provision of that 80%, 85%, to make the argument that they need more than that in order to function. Otherwise, they can't do business with that state. Now, many of those.
But doesn't that set the stage for the Medicare for all?
Well, I mean, you would think so, because let me just finish this point and just tell you that the bottom line is that it's not. In some cases, that's true, and in other cases, it's not true that they're being restricted to that. Some have even managed to get them down to 60%. In this year, they do it on a year-by-year basis. Now, having said that, the other reality there is that a Medicare plan, they've estimated it will take 2 or 3% of administrative costs. And so that's the difference. And I'm sorry, Jordan.
But the point, I guess that this is no longer comparing the administrative overhead, which is clearly Medicare is so far ahead. It's unquestionable. The question is, will the investors find the smaller return on investment from their stock being held in medical corporations no longer satisfactory, so that they're just going to essentially say, we got to get out of this business. It's not profitable for us anymore.
I don't think so.
Oh, well, and just to add to what Reginald said, and to kind of round out the answer to your question, is that what a lot of the insurance companies are doing with respect to this medical loss ratio, they are taking a two-step approach. The first step is they're meeting that by eliminating the commissions paid to insurance brokers, which were traditionally about 10 or 15% of premium. And they're saying, well, they don't need the insurance brokers anymore to be a liaison with their end user of their product, because they're going to have the insurance exchanges. So people can go online and buy it. They don't need to go to a broker. And the other thing that they're doing, which I just learned from one of our doctors in PNHP, is they're now staffing up with nurses and other health professionals, and they are creating like a medical administrative unit within their organization. And I don't know about you, I got a letter from one of these from my insurance company saying, oh, we want you to go get your mammogram. And they started following me about getting my mammogram. Well, that's good, but the truth is that's how they are trying to avoid that 15% or 20% medical loss ratio, is that they're imbuing or they're integrating into their profit making thing this wellness type activity and units to do that, and that's just feeding into their administrative expenses. It's not, it takes them out of that medical loss ratio.
Right. And one point that Bill Taxman made last week, which I think really speaks to this, is that you have to, on a large scale, you have to keep in mind that they're not hurting at all, because what just happened is they got an infusion of cash immediately to the tune of $500 billion.
Right.
Immediately, and with the expectation that they're going to get another trillion over the next 10 years from Obamacare. So the notion that they're hurting is it's exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
They just increased their customer base tremendously just based on that one bill.
I subscribe to Modern Healthcare online. I can't afford to get the print version, but online I keep seeing these articles that all of these private for-profit health delivery type things, not just the insurance companies, but also the hospitals and medical groups, they're in a feeding frenzy. It's creating a new bubble. The mergers and acquisitions in the healthcare industry are going wild right now.
Right.
Every single day I get an email from these folks at Modern Healthcare, and here's some group in Ohio, and it's a big buyout and a big merger. And every time I see mergers and acquisitions, it's all our money that wasn't spent on taking care of us, and they're playing in the economy with our money.
Right, buying each other out.
What's the name of the website again? Sorry.
It's Modern Healthcare is one of them that I get emails from them every day with news, and it's shocking to me that I would say 80% of the news has to do with this these buyouts and all this economic finagling.
Right. The Obamacare is some of us say that the Obamacare is nothing but a forcing people to go to the insurance companies where they can make even more money than what they're making. That has nothing to do with really health care for the majority of the people, but nothing but more income to the insurance company.
Yes, absolutely, and it galls me. I mean, it really galls me to think that people are required by law to go to a private health insurance by insurance. It just galls me, especially when we have a wonderful Medicare system that we could improve it and expand it to improve more people and provide more care. And that is what is the crux of the bill that we are trying to get reintroduced in the California legislature next January. The crux of our bill is to have like a trust fund, a health trust fund for the state of California. And it would be very narrow administrative costs on the model of Medicare, but expanded so that all ages are part of it, and then expand the services to include vision and dental and audiology, all these things that are left out but that tie into the holistic care of our bodies. Yes.
Now, is there a slot where this plugs into Obamacare so that the approach you're suggesting was anticipated as an option within Obamacare?
Actually, not per se. The bill that we've been struggling to get passed was originally, it dates back to about 1994 with Sheila Kuehl, and then it was taken over and advanced by Mark Leno and other Democrats, and twice it passed the California legislature, twice, and Arnold Schwarzenegger would not sign off on it. So last January was our first chance to get it in front of Jerry Brown. Now, some people think he would have signed it without batting an eye. Personally, I'm not so sure. My trust level is way down, I'm afraid. So Sorry.
So when's the next shot you have of getting Jerry to sign this thing?
Well, our next shot is to get the bill reintroduced in January of 2013, next January. So you can imagine how key it is that everybody have this in their minds when they go to vote. And I realize that, we're nonpartisan also, just like Occupy is. But there definitely is, at this point, a huge chasm in our society that has to do with human rights versus corporate rights. And this election is going to be a real key battle in what moral perspective is going to prevail. Because these folks that have placed the corporate rights above human rights and profits over people, they have had the reins. They have been controlling where our tax dollars go, and they have chosen to starve the services to people. And if we don't get together and take that back, it doesn't matter what arena we're in, whether it's education or worker rights or immigrant rights or healthcare justice, we are going to keep losing. Yes, sir.
Yes, I just lots of people says that the reason why we don't have health universal health care is because we have a great population of people of color, which it implies that it's a racist policy as far as the policies they have for health insurance here. That many other countries do have, like Canada, because they don't have such a great black or people of color population. But I also say that it's also the fact that the ruling class doesn't want to spend the money on, people that they consider the subjects.
Irrelevant, yeah. No, I agree with you on both points. Point number one, racial resentment, I think, is truly one of the biggest issues that we confront as we try to get programs for healthcare justice implemented. Racial resentment. I always say our toughest crowd are the communities of privilege who deny that there's a problem because they don't experience it. Communities of color are very well aware of this injustice, and they have watched this injustice go all the way back, hundreds of years in this country. So we do have a heterogeneous population, without a doubt, and in California, it's one of the most heterogeneous populations in the country. And so we have communities that have a louder voice because there are more of them. If you go to Arkansas and you're black, or I hate to say it, if you're black in Texas, it's it's just a bad life, And I'm from Oklahoma originally, and believe me, I came from Tulsa, and that town is very racially divided. And North Tulsa, it's like there's a boundary, and you don't go to North Tulsa after dark, and North Tulsa doesn't come to South Tulsa after dark. So it's still happening, and so the racial resentment is a valid point. And so as we go out to appeal to communities of privilege, I think we have to be mindful of it, but we have to be able to frame our argument in a way that we can win them over too.
I wanted to hear, what are examples of things that this racial resentment idea is very interesting to me. Because I know people say this, people say, well, that's why they don't want to fund education anymore, is because there's too many people of color. And I don't know if that's really true. I haven't seen any evidence of that. So I'd like to hear if you have stories where people said it. But also, I think that I understand it's that race and racial division is one of the strongest tools of the ruling class to divide the people. And so it makes sense that that would come up, because that would interfere with people's commitment to really providing services for everybody. But it's totally ridiculous, of course. So I'm just trying to understand, is it real? People are really saying that?
Yeah, it's Paul Krugman, whom I do not advocate that everything he writes, but in 2008 he wrote a book, and he wrote actually 2 books in that year, so I don't know which one it was in, but it's a 2008 publication. And the case for the insurance not being racially prejudiced in this country, and one of the main reasons that we are the only industrialized country in the world that we don't have a universal healthcare system is racially biased, is proven in that book. And he doesn't only do it in this country, he compares it to every other country in the world, and you see that once they were able to get rid of that bias that they had, or these homogeneous populations in those countries were able to go to the smaller minority of the people, and usually black people, and be able to provide the healthcare system for everyone, it wasn't done. So I think it's not even a matter of dispute.
The name of that book
Interesting.
the name of that book is Conscious of a Liberal.
Yes, yes,
called?
thank you very
Conscious
much. Yes,
of a Liberal.
thank you very much. Yes.
What's his full name?
By Paul Krugman.
And Ronnie, you had something you wanted to say?
I was going to say that, you were talking about how they divide by race and class and all that. It seems like our society is becoming more like the Romance societies, where they're into the divide and conquer. And I think that's what's happening. By keeping us divided, they're able to keep us under more control.
I agree with you. And in healthcare, the fractionalized nature of it, where we had the unions for a long time, were the ones stopping any real reform because they were able to justify their existence by, negotiating for these benefits for their workers. But it's become evident as the crisis, the snowballing effect of this crisis has really taken on a life of its own in the last 10, 15, 20 years, that that's not sustainable even for them,
So can I ask you to talk a bit about next steps with regard to this 2013 expectation? In January 2013, we're going to get our next opportunity to really do something around universal health care. How can Occupy LA people help?
Well, one thing that would just be amazing is that, while we have a relationship with East Wind Coalition and we're actually on their list, they have a Google Doc, Excel spreadsheet, and we're on their list, and I've been to meetings with them. We still have not managed to get somebody from Occupy to come to our campaign meetings. And I realize that coming to a meeting, just, oh my gosh, and I know how you feel, but yes.
Well, personally, I'll attend a meeting. I mean, I'm all about issues, and regardless of the Occupy movement, I could just show up myself and invite a comrade and just.
The thing would be great is that if somebody, and I brought information on our next meeting, and the reason that I wanted to invite people to our next meeting is because we are really gearing up to try to do a series of visibility actions that I think would tie in naturally with Occupy. And if I know that South Wind and East Wind are actively building coalitions, I just don't know about West Wind. And I have tried to work with North Wind and gone to the Occupy San Fernando Valley and the San Fernando Valley Coalition, and it's sort of not coming together that well, and I don't understand why necessarily, but I just think it's really hard. I'm finding coalition building to be hard, yes.
Well, as far as doing coalition building, it has to start in a small percentage of individuals to show their presence within this project, because you can't really expect the vast group of people of this particular group to show up, because it's impossible for that to take place, So it has to be small groups, or
yes,
like at least 4 or less.
So we have 8 minutes left in this class, and then we have a 30-minute break, and then we have another class at 3. We could probably go to 2:45 if we need to.
Well, we don't have to. I'm almost done. All I was going to say is that like one of the things that we're going to talk about doing is a candlelight vigil, and we would very much enjoy people to collaborate with us in the planning of this, and we're going to try to use it to reach out into the faith community also, so that we have a moral message through this vigil.
When is that?
The next meeting here, I'm trying to tear this apart. Oh, would you help me?
Sure, absolutely.
I just brought, I don't know, I didn't bring enough for everybody. I had no idea how many were coming, and all I'm trying to do is just give you a map and the date and time. Thursday
And
night.
I'm going to give lists, so on each one of these actions, so whoever's interested in whichever action can sign that list.
Yeah,
Right.
and so you would be so welcome to come. Here we go. And you were interested in coming too? Anybody else would like one?
I got maps there.
Yeah, there's a map. It's in Hollywood at the Musicians Union. Our first chance to meet with the musicians.
Oh, what day? It says July 19th, 16th here.
Oh, I meant August 16th.
Okay.
How did I do that? Oh my goodness. Can you write? Let me get a pen.
I just wanted to, if you want to, I don't know if you use Facebook or not,
Yeah.
but I have a huge, like I have maybe over 600 Occupy friends. If you make an event invitation on Facebook and send it to me in a message,
Okay.
I can invite everyone.
Well, the only problem is that we're just, because we're a coalition of organizations,
And we'll make sure you get information about
we
the
don't
speakers
have
training.
space for like
Okay.
50
Okay.
people to show up, but we have space for like a representative or two from
Okay.
different coalitions, so that's the kind of the problem.
Maybe I could just invite some of the people who are more interested in health things.
Yeah, that would be
Yeah.
good. Did you need a pen to change that date?
Yeah, beginning.
You got it.
In the 60s, that was the same thing. People who raised it.
And who wants to participate in the candlelight vigil?
It's still 16th, right? August 16th.
We're just planning it. We're just going to start planning it because we know you folks like to be engaged in it, and everybody wants to have a say in the messaging.
So whoever is interested, you can put your information here and she'll take care of that.
And it's true.
So we got three things, right, Georgia? We got the candlelight vigil.
16th or
That's
August
the
19th?
candlelight vigil.
What day is
It
We
says
got
16th.
the
Somebody told me it was
the
on
August 16th thing, and we
Thursday.
got the speakers
But
training.
is it the 19th or the
Just
16th?
send me emails when
I thought it was Thursday the 16th, but I don't have it. I screwed that up, so I'm afraid now. I've lost confidence in myself.
16th is a Thursday.
Yeah, it's a Thursday the 16th.
You weren't here when
Sorry.
we did that
And do you have the date for the...
Hey now, if you're watching the stream, I'm going to go ahead and stop streaming now, and I'll be back at 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, we're going to have Occupy LA Freedom School, and the subject is the Federal Reserve. So stay tuned for 3 o'clock. Federal Reserve class, right? At 3 o'clock? All right.
Thursday, August the 16th.
This Thursday?
That's why I
Do you think you can make it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I've seen you at East